Did you know that Geto's curse technique is the only one in the entire series that revolves around the existence of cursed spirits? Every other technique in the series can exist without the formation of cursed spirits at all. Even Shikigami are innate and use the user's own cursed energy. That means that Geto was born with a purpose, to help monitor the cycle of curses. This is what interests me the most about him. He was born with a role, one that he was originally so happy to fulfill until he realized he was a savior to sinners. To fully understand his character, we first need to start somewhere. Well, maybe not there. That's a whole different video. Let's start a lot earlier. Geto was born with the innate curse technique, cursed spirit manipulation. As I was talking about before, the technique takes defeated or substantially lower cursed spirits and allows the user to turn them into a ball-like form. Through ingestion, the user now becomes the curse's handler and gains complete control over the curse. When ingesting, Geto describes it as akin to eating a rag that was used to clean up vomit, and needs the user to swallow a large ball that is so obtuse it even stretches against the user's throat. Along with it being the only technique to be directly related to the cycle of curses, it's also one of the few known techniques to cause harm or discomfort to the user. Yet, it's outweighed by the immense potential that is being able to wield curses as we see throughout the show. Without looking at Geto's character or backstory, his curse technique is already great at establishing how much of an outcast Geto is to the rest of society. He is extremely powerful because of his technique, yet, because of his innate connection to the cycle, he is born with a savior complex. Most curse techniques do not have to inherently help humanity. Geto's does. With this savior complex, he is different from the people he is protecting. He is a sorcerer protecting the weak. However, he also understands curses on a level no other sorcerer can. To understand the taste and pure essence of the thing you were born to command, it puts Geto in a very off position. Geto is like a half-elf, understanding both worlds but not belonging to either. And so, with Geto being pulled between these two worlds, this leaves him in a very volatile state where he understands and hates either side. Luckily, he was placed into a school that would foster lots of love and joy to make him into a prosper and happy-go-lucky savior. Right? The Star Vessel incident is really important to Geto's transformation, because it represents his faith to humanity. Unlike Gojo, Geto is extremely selfless. He becomes more powerful for the sake of humanity. He is a sorcerer because of humanity. He doesn't have a passion or any personal attachment. He is purely doing it for the greater good. That's why he serves as a great contrast to Gojo. Gojo is someone who is purely emotional and selfish in his reasons. However, it is tough to continue going forward for a cause that you have no real attachment to, especially if you are never rewarded for it, and if the cause isn't that great. I think it would be unfair to say that his goals were purely logical, though. I do believe that's what he would tell and convince himself of to feel better about the grossness of curses. Although he doesn't have some intense backstory and reasoning of why he's doing this, he has his friends. Going out and doing curse removal is inherently not personal because curses are seen as lesser. Geto doesn't feel bad when he tames a curse, even though he understands them. Yet, with a job that requires the transportation of a sacrificial lamb with your pseudo-lover, there's bound to be feelings there. Geto relied on this distant idea that a god looks down at his people. He doesn't interact with them, to try and stay sane. But now he is interacting with what he is trying to protect. Once Toji kills the Star Vessel and Gojo, Geto can no longer hold on to this flimsy and lofty goal of being this protector of the weak, for the weak is filthy. Because of this already flimsy goal breaking, he breaks as well, going into a depressive spiral. He talks a lot about why the strong shouldn't defend the weak if the weak doesn't appreciate them. It's a never-ending cycle of bloodshed, and that line is really important. Again, he bears his own vulnerability by blaming humanity. With the Star Vessel incident, he sees humanity as weak and filthy, and sorcerers as strong. Yet, that incident really showed how vulnerable and fragile sorcerers really are. He is once again alienated, too weak to protect his friends, and too strong to want to protect humans. He still lingers on after the incident, wandering through life, going through the motions but never really feeling it. In these events, Geto is looking for a reason. He constantly lived for others and is now suffering the consequences. He's trying to cling on to anything. He can't look towards Gojo because Gojo is now trying his hardest to become the strongest, and he can't look towards humanity because they're filthy. Geto is truly alone. Even Geto's own power doesn't rely on himself. but instead relies on the powers of others. He doesn't know how to exist alone, but he can't cling onto a world that hates him either. However, he can't give up. He was given a gift that is involved with the cycle of curses in humans. He is simply a cog in a machine. I mean, we even see him ingest super low-tier curses. At that point, it's just ritualistic. But what if there is a way to end this cycle? When this information got dropped, the only question that lingered in my head was, why does Geto truly want to get rid of curses? Curses kill sorcerers. Geto only cares about sorcerers. So kill all humans to save all sorcerers. Pretty simple. Kind of. Again, Geto's technique is the only one that relies on the cycle existing. If the cycle is gone, his technique is gone, and he is finally freed. Geto was the happiest when he was just existing. Sorcerers don't get a choice to live a normal life. They are flung into an unknown world and deal with it. Humans would never know what that feels like. Well, until the Culling Games, that is. But besides that point, the biggest conclusion to me about Geto destroying all humans is that he would finally be freed from his savior complex. Although I think a main motivator is to try and save the greater good of sorcerers, it just wouldn't make sense for it to be the main goal for Geto, especially since he just realized how harmful his first savior complex was. It feels too cartoonishly evil to not have some personal connection there. He hates humans and curses for making him something he no longer wants to be. This is also one of the main conversations he has with the vessel, talking about how she was ripped off from her choice of being a normal schoolgirl and trying to make that life possible for her, which is a reflection upon himself. If only there was a man that could solve this problem for Geto. Oh wait, Gojo is more of a god than a man, yet Geto always seemed to strip that title away from him. Gojo is an unstoppable force. Geto even states that if he wanted to kill all non-sorcerers, he could. And I would argue, Gojo considers it to at least save his platonic boyfriend. Geto puts this high emphasis on purpose. If something has a purpose to do it, it should be done. Sorcerers' entire lives are built on purpose. They are not allowed to simply rest. And so, Geto looks at Gojo with this plan that would make Geto so much happier, even if he says it's for the betterment of sorcerers. And Gojo rejects it. It's simply a soul-crushing scene that cements his alienation from Jujutsu society. If the sorcerers pride themselves on purpose and motivation of protecting each other and furthering themselves, why wouldn't they just kill all humans? Because this vague sense of morality and superiority, of protecting the weak even if it gets them killed? Geto sees it as egotism. Saviors are nothing without their worshippers. It's how sorcerers feel good and stay sane. However, Geto doesn't get that privilege because of his technique. And so, Geto finally leaves after being alienated by everyone. However, now that he is alone, he is able to create what he desires. He creates his own cult-like society, where non-sorcerers come in and bring him curses, and kill those who do not benefit him in the hopes of getting enough curses to take down the sorcerer society. However, he can't repress his need to live a normal life fully, so he creates a family of sorcerers who trust and needs him. It is not crazy to say that the symbolism of Geto between Nanako and Mimiko is a father and daughter-like relationship. The twins went through the same thing Geto did. They were born sorcerers, and because of that were robbed of a normal life and family. But at least he can try and give them a sense of normalcy by fulfilling that role of a parent. Because at the end of the day, that's what Geto hates. Society forcing him into a role that not even the people who forced him into it appreciated properly. To nail it home, when Geto is on his deathbed, he doesn't look sad, he looks content. He gave a family to those who didn't have it, and is now free from the constant fight to just have the right to exist. That's why it's even more brutal that even after he dies, his body is still used and manipulated in the cycle of curses, never truly free. He represents what society does towards sorcerers, rips them away to a job where they can never rest until the day they die. Sorcerers don't retire. They get killed in combat. There is no choice. You are born with a curse that you have to manipulate into being a blessing and create friends through this shared misery. Geto never got to live the life he wanted or create the world where his family could live in peace. But at least he got to spend time with the one he loves. He didn't die through the cycle he was born to. He died to the one person that understood him. Two slaves to the same cycle. It's even more gut-wrenching when you realize that Gojo getting stronger was his way of also reducing the amount of cursed spirits, so that Geto could be free from the cycle. But still never was enough, because at the end of the day, Geto just wanted Gojo, the man that understood him, not as a curse or human, but as a person. Hopefully, one day the cycle of curses will break and sorcerers will be free. Oh my gosh, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and follow my Twitter and follow the artist. Thank you!